afternoon, everyone. This presentation is going to tie in perfectly with all those points that Keely just mentioned. So to start, this is all about my award-winning submission, HATT in a Box, which stands for Highways and Transport Technology in a Box. So here is myself and my head of service back in July at the wonderful Innovation and Learning Festival. It was actually my head of service, thankfully, that sent the link to the page for the award. And I had a look and I thought, okay, so I've been an apprentice myself. I've done various different forms of outreach. I think I could put together quite a good, well-rounded submission for this. And you can see me with that very large check that I had to transport back to London. So before putting together my submission, I really wanted to look at various research projects as to why there's this national shortage of people choosing engineering-related subjects, and also using my own story and that of my colleagues that I know. I came across a really interesting research project conducted by the CIHT, the Chartered Institution of Highways and Transportation. And that really summarized the 4 key areas based on that research project. Number 1 being the lack of encouragement from teachers and parents. As part of this, the teachers expressed that it's very easy to explain what a doctor does or what a lawyer does, but they didn't find themselves in a position to confidently explain what an engineer does or what different opportunities are available within highways. Having a low number of visible role models, I myself and many others came into the industry through family or through knowing someone. It is kind of rare that you will find someone who has had a very clear, defined pathway into highways and engineering, and I think that could be due to that lack of visibility. The lack of diverse job roles, this is something I don't particularly agree with. I think there's a huge diversity available within highways. I mean, just go upstairs and look at all those stalls. There's a wealth of different available positions. You can go into more project management side, technical roles, sales. So I think there's a massive amount of diverse job roles, but there isn't really that exposure of the available opportunities. And lastly, the lack of diversity within highways and engineering, and it being predominantly white males. There was an additional survey I looked at conducted by the Institute of Engineering, and 65% of teachers express they think female role models going into schools, talking to students, would be that best form of outreach and inspiration. So to start, one of the main forms of outreach I've been involved in that I found to be very rewarding and enjoyable was attending careers fairs. So at Islington, we have quite regular careers fairs, and actually a careers fair is how I found out about the engineering opportunity at Islington. So it was great for me to return and speak about that personal experience of mine and also answer any questions. Because again, as I mentioned, a lot of the sort of young people were a bit reluctant and, as Keely mentioned, thought it was all potholes and high-vis and very, very technical. But I actually expressed there's so much you can get involved in. There's lighting, there's street works, there's maintenance, there's all different things. So from this, we had 11 applicants, which was extremely successful because the previous year, I think we had about 3. And we then went on to hire 3 of those apprentices. And one of the key things here really is exposure. So having leaflets, having brochures, having things on social media, really promoting that event to young people. Here's also a very interesting outreach that we do at Islington, and we continue to do, is university outreach. So not only speaking to people who haven't entered the industry yet, also liaising with students that are currently studying engineering, transport, and highways-related degrees, and setting up work experience for them and shadowing opportunities. This also, I think, creates really great pathways into then hiring them potentially in the future and them then joining your team. We had 26 students register their interest for a 4-week work placement. We went on to have 2 of those students. We returned the following year and the interest doubled. We had 51 students register interest and then went on to have a further 2 and scheduled more. So this really shows that having that consistent presence built that popularity of the work experience. The last form of outreach, and the one that really formed my HATT in a Box idea, is secondary school STEM workshops. So this one was with Year 8 students. We had a classroom full of them, and we had a day-long workshop, and we explored all the various elements of highways and engineering and transport, and we really let the students get involved and be very hands-on with that. So the key outline of the day started with a presentation and an icebreaker. I introduced myself, so did my peers that were involved, and we spoke to them about our own personal journey. I feel like it's much more effective to speak about your own experiences rather than just standing in front of the students and just waffling on about things. They like to hear about you and where you've come from, and also why you've chose the industry. We then took them to 2 site visits of 2 public realm schemes that we had implemented. We brought high-vis out with us, we brought measuring tools, site audit forms, and this part they really enjoyed because they actually felt like engineers, they said. We then did a little treasure hunt to finish with all different hidden engineering items out on site, such as lighting columns, gullies, all these things that they're passing every day but don't really know the importance of. And then to conclude the workshop, we gave them a task of redesigning that space outside of their school and really encapsulating all the different elements they'd learned. As you can see here on the right-hand side, this was the winning design. They had used trees, suds, cycle lanes, zebra crossings, so they were really thinking about public realm enhancement. And of course, Islington's an inner London borough, so that really is the main focus. So here's a very quick feedback video from one of the students.
So we were discussing how we can make our environment around us, around the streets, even in parks, anywhere communal, for residents. Nowadays there's lots of cars, systems. So that's why we're introducing more cycling lanes, more people to walk out freely.
You've got trees, which are carbon sinks, which is good for the environment and air pollution.
Zebra crossing. After we have natural seating.
I think sustainable, diverse, and welcoming would be my few words.
So that really summarizes what we wanted to achieve from that day. Not only did we want to inspire the students, we also wanted them to really think like engineers, which is applicable obviously to Islington, which is about sustainability, promoting active travel, and all of those things. Here was the case study feedback from the students. So 98% of them thoroughly enjoyed the activity, 90% of them learned something new about the built environment, and a further 85 stated that the workshop made them feel more prepared for the world of work. I mean, that really does speak for itself, and that is what we wanted from the workshop. We wanted to bring awareness to the industry and also hopefully sway them towards when they're choosing their GCSEs, looking at more of an engineering and highways and transport related route. So here are the 3 key stages of outreach that I firmly believe to be the most effective. The first one being secondary school, around the ages of choosing GCSEs, as mentioned, Year 8 onwards. Careers fairs for people like myself at the time, who was 16 plus, not in higher education, and to be honest, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And of course, university students who are already on that path towards these job roles and highlighting all the various options they have and also setting up those pathways into future employment for them. So that is how I came to HATT in a Box, which is basically a template which has a very simplistic structure so that it could be tailored to consultants, to contractors, to local authorities, to suppliers, and it really just encapsulates everything that I mentioned. So having that presentation at the beginning, introducing who you are, what you do, what the specific topics you'd like to focus on for that day are, then moving into an interactive quiz, getting to know the students a little bit better, and continuing to break that ice. And then the main and most exciting bit for the students is a project walkthrough. We took them to 2 projects that had already been implemented. I think it would be even better if you could take them to a live project potentially and really get them to see the actual construction of a project potentially and just how things work out on the highways. And then the 3rd section of the day was them redesigning a space outside of their school. As mentioned, this was more specific to Islington, but you could tailor that and give them a task of doing anything, of completing a practical task or anything that suits the type of workshop you are delivering. And then lastly, giving them that sense of achievement and awarding a HATT champion. So having a look at everything you focused on throughout the day and which group of students really encapsulated that the most in the conclusion of the workshop. So hopefully the future of HATT in a Box will become a virtual resource box that anyone could use. We'd like to have quizzes suitable for different age groups, different industries, all linking into highways and engineering. Design guides on various elements. We had more of a public realm focus. This could be anything else like highways, asset management, lighting. Having information on how you can organize the guide. So of course, as part of this, we had to do a risk assessment for taking the students out of the school. So there'd be information on how you can do this and it being relevant to where you decide to take the students. PowerPoint information on how you could set up that initial presentation and introduce yourself. I know myself, I think kids are a bit of a tough audience, probably more than adults, so getting that engagement from them is something that I needed a little bit of help with, so all of that information would be readily available. And a work experience workbook to link this. So if you're looking at Year 8 students, they will then have a 2-week work placement in Year 10, so you could set up that and you could sort of plan for the future for them to come back and for them to then do a placement in your actual workplace. So the future could potentially have a HATT in a Box app where all of that information is readily available with FAQs, and also a bit of a forum where people can say some of the things that they would like to improve in future sessions, or a bit of advice for people doing the workshop for the first time. And of course, there will be more information about risk assessments, potential DBS checking, because of course you would be going into schools and working with young children. So to really summarize, I think the HATT in a Box idea was created from all of that various outreach I did, and I think the most effective method is to really go in there and speak to these kids, speak about your personal experience, speak about the industry, and hopefully by doing that, we really can inspire the future and hopefully sway more people into choosing highways and engineering-related roles. So thank you.